Happy New Year, everybody. If you've seen my recent Facebook posts, you know that I got a new toy. And I actually have been so impressed with it thus far that, well, you know, I had to get another one. So I'm going to show you the unboxing and all the reasons why I got another one and why I'm so impressed with it so far. And so let's get to work. All right, now that that's out of the way, in their 3D printer accessory box, you got usual assortment of USB. Instead of clippers, they actually have a pretty giant knife in here. The usual scrapers, some cleaners, mask, filters, etc., etc. They also include replacement FEP, which I thought was pretty cool. And the other thing that's right away I noticed with this printer is the fact that the power supply is built in. So there is no external power supply. This is just a regular old computer cable, and if I would twist it the right way, we can plug it in and we're good to go. So that right away was one thing. The other thing, when I went to plug it in, if you can see, there's no fan holes. None. Like, haven't seen a 3D printer without fans and making all kinds of noise. So if you look, it's pretty heavy too. But if you look, all the cooling is down underneath. So this thing is crazy quiet. Like, no fans running, nothing. Like, unreal. The other thing that I really liked about it, man, is it heavy. The other thing that I really liked about it is the fact that the way that the cooling works, there's no circulation like through the case. So when you're printing, like, the smell and that kind of stuff is surprisingly minimal. So that was one of the questions. I actually sent them an email, was asking them some things, is if they had any kind of air filtration or anything in it, because it's really different than a lot of other 3D printers that I've used. So I thought that was really cool. The other thing I found interesting, which again I asked a question of, is there's a little port right here. So it's just got a little plastic push in, and when it's running, like, the UV light's flashing. So I asked them if this was for, like, resin time lapse. You can put the little light sensors in there, or what this little hole was for. So I thought that was interesting. So we'll see what they have to say on that one. But touchscreen is huge. USB's right here up on the front corner. So let's plug it in real quick. Now, the main reason why I wanted to get this is I had been having some trouble with the other printers I was using. I've probably abused Amazon's return policy with all the issues that I've had. And majority, like motherboard MOSFETs blowing out and things like that. So I wanted to find something different. So I did order another printer also, and I wound up sending it back after a short time of just playing with it. I only printed one part, just their test part with it, and I wasn't happy with the speed and the lack of adjustability on the screen while you're printing to be able to tweak anything or play with any of the settings. So I sent it back. This one, though, is really interesting. So you got the on-off switch on the back, and you also have the one here on the front. And you can see it is one big, nice colored touchscreen. Like, probably the nicest on any printer that I've seen. So in system, you have the usual info calibration for your touchscreen. We'll just do that real quick. And then language change, settings, network, etc., etc. Tools are the usual. You can check your exposure, you got your tank cleaning, set your Z, and then manual movement, which we're going to go to now. Just going to go 10 mil. And move this up a little bit. And you hear some clicking, that's the tape. They actually have packaging tape, and the way that you like zero the two axes and all this stuff is really, really cool. So I'm just gonna pull this out real quick. We're gonna go one more. And I'm gonna try and get the tape off of here. My kids are at hockey, and I had my daughter with her smaller fingers get these out for me before, because of course my fingers don't fit in here so good. Let's see if I can get these out pretty quick though. So the reason, I don't think I elaborated on it, the reason why I wanted to try this printer was the double Z. So in trying to print a lot of our drag racing rims and RC car stuff fast, to try and keep up with the orders and the demand, one of the things I noticed is that the resin blends, especially when you start getting into some of the flexibles and some of the things I'm trying to do to make the parts more durable, they tend to get a lot more sticky. So using like NFEP or PFA film in your resin tank is a lot more important. And just trying to get all the settings as dialed in as possible, so that way there's less chances of failures. But what I've noticed though is when I have the settings just off just a little bit, and I started marking rims as I pull them off the build plate. So if I have rims that are slightly out of round, they're always out of round with the front side, or a typical machine where the Z-axis is back here. They are always out of round where the front side is low. So it's almost like when it peels it off, it's either deflecting or stretching the rim a little bit, or what it's doing. I'm not 100% sure why it's doing that, but so my options are, I'm going to take this out. My options are to either slow everything down even further, which I'm already way slower than I want to be at trying to get product out the door, or I saw this with the dual Z and thought, man, that might do the trick where I can still print fast. And okay, this tape is really stuck. This is where I wish I had longer fingernails. And so this is where I thought, this would be awesome, because this will actually keep everything more steady, more secure, and possibly allow me to have the fast print settings, but also the tolerance and true rims and things like that I want without any kind of twist and everything. So that was kind of the idea behind that. So far that's shown pretty true, but there's also been a couple other things that I really wasn't thinking about. But okay, so again, this thing is pretty awesome, and the RC racers who know setup blocks and gauges and all that stuff will appreciate it. So the machine comes with these little leveling rulers, and there's actually a magnet here in the top of the plate. I don't know if I can, it's so heavy. So you can see those little silver circles there in the middle of those pads where I just pulled the tape off. Those are magnets down in there. And what they have is these aluminum blocks, just a screw in the bottom that attaches onto those. So these basically slide right in and are used for leveling. Pretty simple. So I'm going to take them out just to make sure, and I'm going to hit home. Alright, so now it's homed, so I'm going to slide these back into place. And have nice little like pockets for these to sit in too. All right, so those are in. Now it's a little bit tough to see. Maybe I'll grab this. All right, so if you look, there's a little, you look there, there's a gap. So right in this area. The same thing on this side. Now, these knobs that they have, whoa, these knobs that they have up here, you adjust each Z individually. All right, so for this part, all I did, because my eyes are kind of getting crappy, is I grabbed a piece of paper, which I will just steal this quarter sheet, slide it right between here. Oops, I forgot. Turn the machine off, do that first. Slide the paper here. And just level this to where it just touches the paper. Now this isn't for your build plate leveling, this is just for leveling your gantry basically. Oops. This goes way more easy when it's not on a turntable and it's like down normal level. But you know, that wouldn't be as entertaining. Okay, so now that's done, so I can pull these out. And turn the printer back on. And later on I'll go back and double check this because, again, kind of moving and not being the most stable. Again, I'm going to go Tools, Manual. I'm going to go up. Before I do anything else, I'm coming back here because I don't want to listen to the sound. Turn the sound off. All right, so now I'm gonna get into the fun part. The other thing that I thought was really kind of neat about this, and it's one of kind of my pet peeves with all the printers that I've played with, is the leveling paper. So some of the companies come, their machines come with a, they come with a like very, very thick paper, and other ones have like a regular A4 piece of paper. If you actually measure them, one is thinner than your FEP typically, and the other is like 3 times thicker, which to me makes no sense. So one is either going to be like jamming your build plate down on top of your FEP right away, or the other is going to be leaving a huge gap. So your first layer, you're going to have like massive burn-in time in order to have good build plate adhesion, which is one of the reasons why I think a lot of people, when they first get a Resin 3D printer, they level their build plate that way and they have a lot of issues. This one is really interesting in the fact that I don't know what I did with it. I just set it aside. It was just here. Oh no, it's right here with the tank. They have this. It's like, I don't know, some sort of microfiber sheet, but it's like 0.25 millimeters. So your first layer, if you put this in, your FEP is 0.15, this is 0.25. So your first layer should be 0.1. So it's actually like the right thickness and proper. The other thing that I really liked about this printer was that instead of having the polarizer exposed, and then you put down a, you know, flexible like screen protector. This actually has a tempered glass screen protector over the polarizer, so it's really hard and flat, and like all my prints that have come out of it have looked amazing so far. So lay this down here, and the build plate. This is the other thing that sold me that, again, just a high quality printer, is if you look really carefully, this has been, again, one of my pet peeves, is one of the other printers that I had, I took it out of the box and I sat there and I sanded on the build plate for like 2-3 hours just trying to get it flat. It was so warped, and it looked like they had just taken it out of belt sander and like tried to grind some texture into it. This one actually comes with a pretty good texture in it. I would consider this more close to like a 220 grit sand, or maybe a little bit coarser than that, which is generally what I like to use. But the other thing you can see if you look really closely is they actually have like fly cutter marks. And this is, again, one of the things that I've commented on, is why don't these companies just set this in a fixture and zip a fly cutter across it so that your build plates are flat. So the customer, again, doesn't have adhesion issues because their build plate's crooked. And so, like, right out of the box, this thing is dead flat. So my best 2 build plates I've ever had have been on this machine and on this machine. I haven't had to sit here and sand these for hours. So right away, they win again on quality. So this is why, you know, in my post I said I think this is the best printer I've owned in 2021. Now, granted, I haven't been printing that long, but just the quality of all this little stuff adds up really quick. So I'm gonna grab my 3mm wrench here, open up the build plate. Now, the only thing I will say that is a little bit interesting with this machine is because of the gantry, you can't have a typical drip arm, so I have to draw something up and figure out something for that. I'm probably gonna do something that'll hook in this way on the side here. Haven't drawn that up yet, but I'm gonna do that. The only other thing is the build plate is flat here in the center. Now, even though this is pretty high, as high as you can fill this tank, the resin tank is actually marked at its max is at 800 milliliters. So for an 8.9 inch mono screen printer, that's a lot of resin. So in several cases where I've been printing like our Corvette hoods, or you'll see the crazy thing I've been printing in this one here soon. I've run out of resin a few times and button hooked myself with the last, 5-10 millimeters of Corvette hoods being trash because I ran out. So with that, it's not a problem. But like I said, that's the only thing, my pet peeve with trying to get these, is they could have put a little bit of angle on this, just so this area underneath here fills up a little bit, just so that would drain a little bit better, but otherwise not a big deal. And this is a typical 192 by 120. I don't remember if it's 200 or 240 on the Z. So just gonna go home. And just some light pressure. All right, now that should be good. I could have double checked it, but I'm not too worried about it right now because, like I said, I'm going to go back and check everything. So again, super easy paper, not even paper, some cloth thing, which is awesome. The build tank, or the resin tank, I'm not a fan of, just because of the way it's constructed. It's actually like 4 pieces that are kind of bolted together, or 4. I would say it's like a lower 4 frame and then an upper frame to extend up onto it. So cleaning it out isn't super easy, but again, you can see the volume. They got 500 milliliters back here, in 800, and actually I've filled it up to 800 and started a print, and you could actually really go more if you wanted to, but pretty wild. Has the frame to be able to change out the FEP. I don't know if this is like FEP 2 or NFEP or PFA or what they're using in here, but out of the package it printed really well. So I am just going to slide this back into here. The build plate obviously goes in much different. It locks in the back here. So it kind of slides in and keys into that. And then this part here across the front lifts up and over. You just hold this down and you tighten that down into place. So really simple. The case, this thing is so heavy. So one of the first things I wanted to do was see about like cutting it in half. Because of this frame, it gives you like the perfect option to be able to cut it in half and like hinge it or something. So I think just for ease of access with as much as we're printing on it, I might look at trying to cut it and seal it off to that, and then just have it to where the front comes off or something. So yeah, it's a big case. So overall, the printer is really heavy. Everything prints super nice. You can adjust things on the fly while you are printing. If I would hit the right button and go back, awesome big color screen, super quiet, no loud cooling fans. Like, I mean, just everything's been impressive. Very impressive overall with the printer. Now, I have done my usual for my daughter and started off with Resi 1's M70 resin on it, and like the detail and everything is just absolutely insane. So in that respect, like, zero complaints there. And actually the M70 is even kind of marked as being like a difficult resin for people to print with. And honestly, I've struggled with it a little bit on my other printers, and using this printer with that resin, it was a piece of cake. So that again kind of sold me on it, where I knew it would be like a good torture test to try that resin out, particularly with that Dragon file as detailed as it is right away off the bat, and had zero issues. So really super impressed with that. I also did one of my circle cutters, which, to be honest, I'm kind of cheating because now I'm using Fusion 360 to export parts. So this was the old one that I had, and you can see some of the line resolution and things like that. So the parts that are coming out of it now out of SolidWorks and in here are much cleaner. So I mean, all of this was like, you can barely see any of the issues or voxel lines or anything. Like, how smooth this part is just insane. So, and I've been using this to cut all the sample donuts for our no prep drag tires that we're working on. So just finalizing the sizes, so the production starting on those actually tomorrow. What else did I do in it? Oh, so one of the other things I've noticed between the printers, and I'm not really sure much about this because I've been a little bit confused by it, is when you actually look at like the prints, like this one for example is done on my small printer here. It's a Anycubic mono, and I know that they've had like anti-aliasing issues and things like that, but it almost looks like they already have it, because all of this is kind of like almost looks like a satiny, almost burnt kind of look, if I could call it anything. And when playing with the anti-aliasing on my Saturns, it kind of made the same look, but not, I still never got it to quite that level. So I wonder about the UV and the UV power and things like that. I'm no expert on any of that, but it's something I noticed. Now this is a typical deep V no prep drag wheel that we make for foam, and this is one that I printed on the Linant 3D base. And I don't know if you can really tell, but like having the two in my hand, like one is so glossy versus the other, it's crazy. And even like a picture of them sitting side by side, it's super, super noticeable, like the finish. So I don't know if this is because of the resolution on the screen, which technically they should be the same between the Saturn and this printer, or if it has something to do with the UV light source. So I did do something else a little bit different too, to also tell the UV power. One of the things I've kind of figured out that I like to do is I'll pour in some resin when I get a new machine. And I did this with my monos to understand the UV power, because in the Anycubics it's adjustable. In this printer and in some of the other ones I've had, it's not adjustable. So what I did is a tank cleaning. So that's all this is. It's just a tank cleaning sheet, run for 15 seconds. And then grab a pair of calipers and I measure the thickness. So this printer with 15-second tank cleaning ended up making this Resi 1K resin about 0.07? Yeah, about 0.07, 0.06 millimeters thicker than my Saturns do. So I would say the UV is definitely stronger in that, so I know that's part of it. The other part that I found interesting is on this latest prints that I did, I ran my Saturn and I ran this printer at the same time with the same files sliced in Chitterbox Pro, and actually the prints in this machine, even though the dimensions were like identical, I mean we're talking 0.02 millimeter in some places between the two files, the rims off of the base were actually about 1.5 grams heavier. So I'm really curious to get our smashing rig finished up. I have the linear rails for that. We're going to get that built. But I'm really curious to see, like, what's making prints stronger. Do certain printers also do that because of their light source and the UV and how it's curing? So I'm really curious to play with that. Also, I didn't mention, but in the box, this is the only printer that I've seen that like includes it as like a standard. It actually comes with about all of their resin, gray casting resin. So I'll give this a try later on. Let Anna print some dragons with it or something. So overall, I'm super impressed. I'm super happy I got a second one. This is going to get set up with, actually, I think I'm actually going to do this one with the clears. Because of, I printed some, and because of the, basically because of how much shinier and better these other wheels look with this printer, I'm really curious to see what the transparents look like that some of the guys have ordered. As you can see, I have some of the fluorescents done. We've already been shipping some of the orders with these out, so I'm looking forward to finishing the rest of the different colors. I know I've got reds in the other printer right now, blues, greens, a bunch of that stuff's on deck. And like I said, this machine is going to get clears right away, and we're going to see what some of the transparents with the blue tint and some of that stuff are going to look like. So overall, I'm super fired up. So thanks for watching. Any questions, be sure to check me out. I'll add all the links in the description to their site. They're really, really new here in the US, I think the company's only been around for a year or two over in China. But overall, like, I'm super fired up to print a lot of stuff with these machines. So again, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and we'll catch you in the next one. Later.